For more than 2 decades, SpaceX was a black box, the most famous rocket company on Earth, and nobody outside it actually knew whether it made money. Last night, for the first time ever, the box cracked open, and the numbers tell a stranger story than either the fans or the haters were expecting. Let me set the stage, because you need the before to understand the after. SpaceX went public in June, and not quietly. According to reporting from The Street and Yahoo Finance, it priced its IPO at $135 a share on June 11th and raised $85.7 billion. By their reporting, the largest initial public offering in history. Full stop. The stock then shot up. It hit $225 and change within days. And then it did exactly what the word gravity would suggest. It fell. By the time we got to this week, depending on which starting point you measure from, the stock was down more than 45% from that peak, and trading below where it opened. Investors had been selling since basically the first week. So last night's earnings report, the company's first as a public entity, was, in CNBC's framing, management's first real chance to give those sellers a reason to stop. So what were the actual numbers? And I'll be precise because this is where it gets interesting. On the top line, SpaceX crushed it. Revenue came in at $7.8 billion for the quarter, against expectations of roughly $6.8 to $6.9 billion. That's a beat of nearly $1 billion, and revenue was up 92% from a year earlier, nearly doubled. The loss narrowed dramatically too, a net loss of $541 million, down from around $1 billion the year before, and a much smaller per-share loss than analysts feared. Starlink, the satellite internet business, is the engine here. It had already grown to over 10 million subscribers across 164 countries as of the spring, more than doubling year over year. On paper, this is a blowout, revenue nearly doubling, losses shrinking, a genuine beat on almost every headline figure. And the stock fell about 8% in after-hours trading anyway. Now, why? Why does a company nearly double its revenue, beat expectations by $1 billion, and get punished for it? And here's where I want to be critical, because the answer is the whole story of this market right now. The reason, according to Bloomberg and The National, is capital expenditure, spending. SpaceX's CapEx nearly doubled to $18.4 billion in the quarter, an enormous number, driven by 3 things running in parallel: Starship development, Starlink expansion, and the phrase that keeps showing up, artificial intelligence infrastructure. Bloomberg's lead was blunt. The stock fell after the company disclosed higher than expected spending on its AI business, and that overshadowed a report that otherwise beat forecasts across the board. Sit with that, because it's the exact same pattern I've been watching all week, just wearing a rocket costume. A company reports great revenue. The market ignores the revenue and asks one question: how much are you burning on AI, and when do I see it come back? The answer was, we're burning $18 billion a quarter, and profitability doesn't start until next quarter maybe. And even a beloved once-in-a-generation company like this one gets an 8% haircut for it. The free pass on AI spending is gone. I've said it about the hyperscalers. I've said it about a hedge fund that blew up, and now it's true for Elon Musk's rocket company too. But I want to add the harder, more skeptical layer here, because there are 2 things underneath these numbers that the revenue beat headline conveniently skips. First, the valuation. Even after the stock fell, SpaceX was trading at something like 49 times its expected revenue. Not 49 times earnings. It has no earnings. It loses money. 49 times revenue. That is a valuation that only makes sense if you believe the story of the future, not the arithmetic of the present. Second, and this is the one that should really give investors pause, there's a lockup expiring. When a company IPOs, insiders are typically barred from selling their shares for a period. Multiple reports flagged that SpaceX's post-IPO insider lockup was set to expire this week, which can flood the market with new shares to sell. So here's the picture: a stock already down 45%, priced at 49 times revenue, burning $18 billion a quarter, with the people who know it best about to be freed to sell. But it is not the part of this story that's going to decide what happens next. My take, plainly: SpaceX the company had a genuinely strong quarter. SpaceX, the stock, is a referendum on whether you'll keep paying a fortune today for a future that keeps getting more expensive to build. And the 8% drop tells you the market's patience for trust the vision, ignore the spending is running thinner by the week. Even for the company that lands rockets on their tails. The question I'd leave you with, if the market won't extend unlimited AI spending credit to SpaceX, who exactly still gets it? Well, funny you should ask. Because on the very same day, the market handed almost exactly that kind of credit to a different company. Let me show you the contrast, because side by side, these two stories expose something uncomfortable about how this whole AI trade is being priced. The company is Palantir, the data analytics and AI software firm. It reported earnings, and according to CNBC, the stock surged around 29 to 30% in a single session. 30% in a day. It was, per CNBC, the stock's best day since early 2024, and it single-handedly helped lift the entire information technology sector by about 4%. One company moving a whole sector. The report beat expectations, the AI software demand story looked strong, and investors piled in with something close to euphoria. Now here's why I'm putting these two next to each other. On one side you have SpaceX, nearly doubles revenue, beats by $1 billion, and gets sold off 8% because it's spending too much. On the other, you have Palantir, beats and gets rewarded with a 30% moonshot. Part of it is real. Palantir is profitable, SpaceX isn't, and the market rightly cares about that. But part of it, I'd argue, is narrative momentum. Palantir has become the market's designated pure AI winner, the stock people buy when they want to express the belief that AI is going to be huge. And when a stock becomes a belief, it stops trading on its numbers and starts trading on faith. A 30% move in a day on an earnings beat isn't a calm, rational repricing. That's a stampede. That's people terrified of missing the thing that only goes up. And I want to be careful and fair here, because I'm not telling you Palantir is a bad company or that it's doomed. I have no idea where the stock goes, and neither does anyone screaming about it on either side. What I am telling you is that a market which sells off a revenue-doubling rocket company by 8% while sending an AI software stock up 30% on the same day is not a market making cool, consistent judgments. It's a market sorting companies into believers' stocks and everyone else, and pricing the believers' stocks on emotion. And think about what a 30% single-day move actually implies mechanically. A move that size means the market was wildly wrong about the company the day before. Either it was drastically underpriced going in, or it's drastically overpriced now. Or the truth is that the price was never really an estimate of value at all, just a mood reading. Healthy, liquid, well-understood companies do not move 30% in a day on good but not shocking news. Small speculative ones do. So, when a stock this large moves like a penny stock, that's not a triumph of the AI thesis. It's a tell that the thing is being traded on sentiment, not fundamentals. We've watched, just this week, what happens when leveraged conviction in the AI trade meets reality. A $45 billion fund became a $10 billion fund. 30% up days are the same energy pointed in the happier direction. They feel great. They are not historically a sign of a calm and healthy market. My take, enjoy the green days, but notice what they're made of. When the reward for beating earnings is plus 30%, the punishment for missing is going to be brutal and symmetrical. And the same crowd cheering today is the crowd that runs for the exit first. The question underneath both of these stories is the same one. How much of the AI trade is business and how much is belief? And nobody wrings belief out of a market gently. All right, let me take you completely out of the trading floor, because I think the most genuinely useful story today is happening about 8,000 miles from Wall Street, in the hills of Rwanda. And it's a story about technology that actually, unambiguously, saves lives. And then about why even that isn't the whole answer. Here's the setup, and it opens with a real person. NPR reported the story of a woman named Noella Mukanoheli, who was 9 months pregnant and bleeding out. Getting her to care was its own ordeal. a 50-minute motorbike ride to a local clinic that had no doctor on staff, then a 2-hour ambulance ride to cover about 10 miles because Rwanda's mountainous roads are brutal. Her husband said she lost consciousness on the way. When she finally reached the hospital, doctors said she needed 5 liters of blood, what medicine calls a massive transfusion, essentially replacing all the blood in her body. And this is where the technology comes in. The Rwandan government has contracted with an American robotics company called Zipline to deliver emergency blood and now all kinds of medical supplies by drone. The problem they're solving is stark. According to research cited by the Reach Alliance, somewhere between 25 and 40% of temperature-sensitive medical supplies in Rwanda were being wasted because of unreliable cold chain infrastructure, supplies spoiling before they could be used. Rural clinics constantly ran out. So drones, a hospital sends a request, a drone launches, and it airdrops blood or medicine to a hospital that would otherwise wait hours. One doctor at a hospital in Muhanga put it simply, it takes about 5 minutes to get blood by drone. 5 minutes versus sending a person to fetch it. That gap is the difference between a woman going home with her baby and a woman not going home at all. And I want to sit in the good news for a second, because I spend a lot of this show being skeptical, and this deserves real credit. This is technology doing exactly what we always promise technology will do, and it so often doesn't. It's not a chatbot. It's not evaluation. It's blood arriving in 5 minutes for a mother who's bleeding out. Rwanda, a country of nearly 15 million people, most of them rural, a nation that in the 3 decades since the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi has deliberately clawed its way from low income toward middle income status by betting on exactly this kind of high-tech leapfrogging, has become a genuine world leader in something that matters, that is not hype, that earned its headline. But here's why NPR titled the piece the way they did, Drones Can't Do It All, and why I think the critical point is actually the most important part of the story. Go back to Noella. The drone delivered the blood in 5 minutes, but she still almost died because it took her 3 hours to reach a hospital in the first place. The drone solved the supply problem. It did nothing about the 50-minute motorbike ride, the clinic with no doctor, the 10 miles of road that take 2 hours, the ambulance that had to be summoned. Fundable, headline-friendly piece of the problem got solved. The boring, expensive, unglamorous piece, roads, electricity, staffing rural clinics with actual doctors, did not. And this is the pattern I want you to see, because it's not just about Rwanda. It is so much easier, politically, financially, emotionally, to fund the drone than to fund the road. The drone is a story. It's a photo of an aircraft swinging into a landing cradle. A donor can put their name on it. A road maintained over 10 years of mud and hills is nobody's ribbon cutting. Staffing a village clinic with a doctor who'll stay is a decades-long grind with no viral moment in it. So the temptation, everywhere, not just in East Africa, is to buy the dramatic technological fix and quietly hope it papers over the unsexy infrastructure we never got around to building. And the drone genuinely helps. But if a woman can get blood in 5 minutes and still nearly die because she couldn't reach a hospital in under 3 hours, then the drone, for all its brilliance, is treating a symptom, while the disease, the missing roads, the missing doctors, sits untouched. This is the most hopeful story I've told you today, and also the one with the sharpest lesson. Technology can leap over a broken system for one specific problem. It cannot replace the system, and the danger isn't the drone. The drone is wonderful. The danger is that the drone lets everyone feel like the problem is solved. So the hard, slow, expensive work of building the foundation underneath it never gets done. So let me tie the 3 together, because the thread running through all of them is the same. A rocket company that beat every number and got punished because the market suddenly cares about what's real, not just what's promised. A software stock that jumped 30% because belief, for now, is still stronger than arithmetic. And a fleet of life-saving drones that prove technology can perform small miracles, while quietly reminding us it can't build the road to the hospital. Every one of these is about the gap between the dramatic, fundable, story-shaped solution and the boring, essential reality underneath it. Wall Street is learning that gap the hard way this week, one earnings report at a time. Rwanda is living it, one motorbike ride at a time. So here's what I'll leave you with tonight. When you're handed something dazzling, a stock that only goes up, a technology that saves lives in 5 minutes, the useful question isn't, is it impressive? It almost always is. The useful question is, what boring, expensive, unglamorous thing is this dazzling thing quietly letting us avoid? Because the drone is real, and so is the road that still isn't there. In technology and in life, the thing that saves you is almost never the part that trends.